These videos are brought to you by MSCCasino.com and the Macau Sporting Club. MSCCasino.com. Check it out.
You are watching Sports Matters TV.
Okay, guys, welcome to a Sports Matters special here at the Macau Casino, Cork City. I'm joined by a man that would, easily I'd say know more about Roy Keane than Roy Keane knows about himself. A Roy Keane historian, a man that knows a lot when it comes to sports around Cork as well. And he was recently on Cork's 96 FM with PJ Coogan. And Paddy, it's fair to say you definitely blew PJ's mind, and a lot of people that will listen in. But we have to obviously go straight into it. Roy Keane, a man that we all know so well, an icon in Cork and around the world. You know a lot about Roy Keane, first of all, but tell us about the early memories of Roy Keane for you first, and how you came about doing this beautiful piece. And we're seeing a lot of stuff on YouTube at the moment, back from the very start, which is iconic, first of all. But tell us, your first memories of Roy Keane, first of all, and what gave you that drive then and passion to maybe, make people more aware of, our local hero, Roy Keane.
Yeah, Jerry, it goes back to, I was into track and field or athletics back in the day, and I was over in Murray State University, Kentucky, the Deep South, and as I say to PJ at that time in that interview, that's pre-mobile obviously, so it was all about letters and waiting for them to come, and those letters would come roughly once a month. And my brother was great for putting sports clippings in, the latest stuff that was going on. And what I was following really back in that time, and which was just playing in my mind an awful lot, was the Cork were doing the double, so I'd left in the end of August. And the hurlers did it first, and then the footballers were coming through. So I thought that's what the news clippings would be about, and it was talking about the double. And I was going bananas, missing the celebration, go up the top, Cork doing it,
still celebrating that.
Still celebrating that. It's unbelievable. Well, we've done it twice, as you know, 80, 90, and 100 years later, and then Teddy Mack obviously becoming the only God be good to him, winning that. So that's what I thought most of the clippings would be about, and it was. And I was reading down through them, and he'd always throw in other little extra bits, and down at the end was a 19-year-old from Mayfield made his debut in Anfield. I was like, a 19-year-old from Mayfield debut, mate. There was no talk about it before. It kind of came out of the blue. And from that day on, myself and the brother were constantly, how was that kid getting on? He's still in the team. He's progressing, still in the team. And then I came back from America, didn't work out. I stayed there 8 or 9 months. And that was the run-up then to the FA Cup. Yeah. The first FA Cup that he played in 91. It was a fairy tale story in the sense that, he'd got into the first team on the back of Clough, as we all know now, telling them a half an hour before the game. So I followed him like everybody else from Cork, and I had a lot of buddies playing with Wilton, and I joked with PJ about this, that I'm going to try and get Roy onto my channel someday because he owes my club Wilton a favour. Yeah. Because back in the early 80s, Pat Bowdren, who would be Mr. Wilton really over there, the grounds are called after Pat Bowdren Park, as you probably know, Jerry. And Pat started bringing kids over to what was known the Portsmouth International Tournament. So it was a showcase really for scouts. A lot of scouts would go to the games, so everybody wanted to go over there. All different types of talent, but Roy went over as a guest at Wilton. Pat Bowdren brought him over. Jesus. So I have a little bit of leverage with Roy there. Hopefully, I say, look, we brought you over there. You might come onto the channel for me. So
he should, though. Certainly, like as you said, look, we know Roy Keane's. First of all, you always hear stories about Roy and his generosity to Cork, and the clubs, and even the basketball clubs, and the stories that have not been told and won't be told, because Roy is a very private man. But it's I think it's something that we need to see. First of all, yourself and Roy Keane on camera. I think that would be a great chat. Probably telling Roy stuff that he's forgotten, and more. Yeah,
for sure. I suppose that was one of the reasons I did it. And if you've gone down through the channel, which you have, Jaron, you've looked at it. Yeah. I deliberately stayed away from the negative or the controversial stuff. Yeah. I mean, I could have put up whatever went on in Saipan. I put on about Alfie Halland and all of that. There's one video particularly on Alfie Halland's got 14 million views. Yeah. And everything that's reported in it is actually totally inaccurate, totally false, and not reflecting the reality of what happened. Yeah. So I stayed away from that, and we saw the Tommy Tiernan interview, and Tommy hadn't his homework done asking Roy about that incident, and Tommy was, you did this to him, you did that to him, and I said, no, he got up and played. And he played on after that. So I stayed away from that, and I went back right to the start. And there's certainly things, as you just mentioned, that Roy would have forgotten about, you know. I mean, we all picture Rockmount out in White's Cross, but for years, Rockmount would have been playing in Kilcully.
Yeah.
And that labour of love that Rockmount came into the early 80s. So Roy would have been getting buses to go out to White's Cross. But prior to White's Cross being there, they used to train down in Old Christians.
Yeah.
The rugby in behind the ditches when the rugby guys weren't there. I'm sure they probably knew that the boys were going down there, and they turned a blind eye to that. But that's where they did the training. So all that stuff's there. That stuff maybe that a lot of people don't know about.
I'd say a lot of people don't know. Like, that's the thing. Do you know what I mean? We all see the big stuff. Like, you know, we see the trophies at United. You know what I mean? Obviously Nottingham Forest. We know about Brian Clough. Obviously Cove Ramblers. You know, Handsome Bob talks about, you know, Cove Ramblers and Roy being there. But you don't hear the stuff before that, and even, you know what I mean, the gritty detail, you know, with Cove, with Rockmount. And that's the stuff that, like, not that you've discovered. Obviously, you've done a lot of research, a lot of hard work. The videos you put up, you don't make them in 2 minutes.
Sure,
these
you
videos,
know that very well, Jerry.
These videos take hours, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, tell us, you know, where like, were you always a Roy Keane fan, even, like, you know, in the States? Obviously, it was early days for him then, like, you know what I mean?
More all sports, Jerry. I've a GA background. I grew up dreaming about Munster football finals. I missed the '83 final, Tyge Riley goal. Jimmy Barry's is a Wilton man, you know, been the same neck of woods as me. And then all the FA Cups, Kenny Dalglish, a Liverpool fan. So I followed all sports, and particularly any Cork guy that was coming through. Kieran O'Regan had gone to Brighton in the 80s. Brian Carey went to Man United. Dennis Irwin Leeds, then United. And then this kid, as I was saying, Jim, in America, a debut in Anfield. Like, there was nothing ever anything like that I could remember. So I was following it through the 90s, and I distinctly remember him when he was coming back. I think his first car was a black O'Reilly in a year, and he was coming back, and we would go to the same haunts, and he was old, and we'd see him around. And then things were changing a little bit for him. He was getting a little bit of hassle. I saw that one or two times as well, and you know, there was a bit of publicity coming with that, and I think his mom and dad wanted him to stay out of town, but he was a young fella, and he felt that he wanted to go in. So there was all that side of things, but all the while, in all fairness to him, like, he never lost focus of the game and training and keeping that side of things right. And, you know, totally full-blooded, total competitor. But the stories in between, you know, leaving Cork, going to Forest, going to United, it was like incredible stories. I mean, even the trial that shouldn't have happened. Like, Noel McCabe was up there to watch Jamie Cullimore from Cove. You know, like,
and that's well known as well. Like, you know what I mean? It's magic.
There you go. And I mean, Jamie's honest enough to admit, like, that, you know, he didn't perform that day, and Noel McCabe wasn't expecting to see what he saw up there. And there's every chance Roy Keane shouldn't even have been there, because he was a senior player. But he wanted to go because it was Cove, it was another game and all that, and he did what he did up there. And he didn't believe McCabe after the trial, because he'd heard it so many times before. You know, Scout was there, right, today. Scout was there. Like, let's see. And then Noel McCabe did make contact. He did go over 2 times. Like, that might be well known. He went in March, or maybe February, end of March, and the club called him back. And then he went back again in April. And it was when he went back in April then that he really kind of progressed up through the Forest ranks. And the genius of Clough to do what he did. And a lot of people, I suppose, don't really understand the depth of cleverness with Clough in regards people who wouldn't have been the greatest tactician. Like Clough or Ferguson might be the greatest tactician or a coach. But when it comes to people, these guys are Einsteins.
And we know the Clough stories, like some of the stories today, like even trying to sign players, and he's, you know what I mean, player walks into a house and he's on the front room chair, and I like your garden and your flowers, and the philosophy is just incredible. They don't make them like they used to.
No, they don't. And like, the one thing that maybe people don't understand about Clough and why he was just tailor fitted for Keane was he had that personal touch, he had that human touch. And he knew people, and he knew how to get the best out of people. And more than talent, like, Clough would go for character. And that's the thing that shone through with Keane, with him. He saw that he just never say die attitude. So, and you still see it even when he's doing the commentary with Sky.
Today,
he doesn't understand when people don't run. He doesn't understand when they don't go back to help out. That was there from the very, very early days of Rockmount. And I have a story in regards, one time I ever played with him with Summerstone United. Dave Hannigan, the journalist, played with him as well. He did a lovely article in the Echo about this particular game. And he covered it down to a T, because we were all aware of Alan O'Sullivan, who would have been the star of Roy's team back then. Paul McCarthy was well known, Len Downey was well known, but Alan O'Sullivan, who went to Rockmount after on the back of the performances he was doing, we were all in awe of this guy. A Ryan Giggs type of character. Left like totally, and dropping the hips and going in and out like a skier, right? And we were all eager to watch them, but eager to keep the scoreline down. It was a cup game. We were Division 1, they were a Premier team. And what caught me that day was a couple of things. Was the organisation. They were really like a professional. That's mad to say that at 13 or 14. And particularly where that came home to roost was at set pieces. They were all running like you'd see a match of the day. And we're going, we're back in here, right? And they were 4 or 5-1 up. Paul McCarthy got a thump in there. Remember that day? Alan O'Sullivan was cutting us to pieces. Thank God I was on the other side, on the right winger, right? I didn't see him. But the one abiding memory I have of Keane that day when they were 4 or 5-1 up, he was still onto his teammates and still going, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And that's there, that's there from a young age. You can't coach that, you can't train that, just to like try to keep the performance up at 100% all the time. And I think that's what differentiates him outside of, which is a lot of times underestimated with the guy. He had an incredible first touch and the versatility. So I've had debates with lots of people, and I'll have with anybody about Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard, those times, saying they were just as good or they could do this. And they're the two things I throw back. His first touch, his passing, and his versatility. And if you look down through some of the videos that I've done, particularly with Forest, and you look at the short numbers that Keane played every single position. Left wing, right wing, both left and right in midfield, played the number 10, played right back, centre backs 4 and 5, but effective. Effective. There's a famous goal with Man United and Man City where he's getting on the end of the goal, a 3-2 win, one of probably the biggest first big derby win. He was playing right back that day.
He was,
You remember that, Jerry?
I've seen the highlights.
You're younger than me, but you understand where I'm coming from.
Remember. And like he, as you say, like it's very rare you ever hear Roy Keane put a foot wrong in the game. I don't think, you know what I mean? There's been games like, you know what I mean, where United have been beat, but like you rarely ever see Roy Keane put a foot wrong in the game.
Yeah, he made mistakes in the pitch, but I get your point, and what you're getting at is obviously he was on United teams that lost games. But he didn't lose his individual battles. And 3 or 4 guys around him would have lost their battles, so hence like games off the top by 6-3 against Southampton. You can't do anything about that, for whatever reasons. If you at that level, you can carry maybe 1 in a day. You can't carry 2 or 3, and those results go away. But I can't ever remember any game professionally looking at where Keane was dominated, embarrassed, taken off. I'm sure it happened, and I don't know.
That's telling you we don't remember. Right? It's mad, isn't it? That's telling you how classy he was, how much of a perfectionist he was.
Yeah, well, that's the level of consistency, and I mean anybody that would have followed his career to any degree. It's very rare that you get a player that you're going to be giving them a 9, minimum an 8, guaranteed a 9, and 10s week in, week out. And that's what differentiated him from other players, and it's kind of not human in ways, because everybody's entitled to an off day. He didn't have them.
No, very rare. We have to mention, look, I know how much work you put into this. First of all, I think you said 18 months more. Obviously, then you know the way your brain thinks. It's probably been years, but you put it together. We're watching it on YouTube. Are we going to get something, maybe like book wise, like something that people can print? I think there's serious potential there, Paddy, to have this put into a book. I think if you were to pitch it to anybody, they'd take your hand off first of all, and they'd say we want to do it. But I think, you know what I mean, first of all, we don't have a Roy Keane there in Cork. But I think if they done something in the Cork City Library, or they did something along the lines of like
they don't have a which one? Sorry, Jerry.
They don't have a Roy Keane Day. You know what I mean?
The Roy Keane Day, right? Yeah.
We should celebrate Roy Keane once a year in Cork. You know what I mean? But
you'd have a lot of people who run with that. Yeah.
Oh, it'd be huge. But if there was such a thing, would it be something you're interested in? Because look, it's all in your brain. Look, we're seeing it on the videos now, and people need to see the videos first of all. If they want to pass away, you know what I mean? If someone's at home and they don't know what to do, they need to start watching this stuff first of all. The real hardcore United fans need to watch it. As far as we're aware, Roy Keane probably knows about this already. There's a story we might say in a bit. But is this something you want to take further? Look, obviously, the story you have is incredible. What you know about Roy Keane is incredible. It's beyond incredible, actually. And statistic-wise, I think, you know what I mean, people need to know more and they need to hear it.
Yeah, Jerry, like the first reason or the main reason that I did it, and I was very, very surprised when I started off doing it, was that there was nobody who had done it.
Yeah.
Okay. He's 2 autobiographies, obviously. There's been lots and lots of biographies, but there's nobody piece by piece from start to finish, from the Rockmount days, Cove, the trial, Forest, up the United, obviously, and Celtic and all that, literally like point by point. So I looked at that and I saw the workload, and I'm self-taught, so I was like a lot of people during COVID times. You reflect back and say, what do you really want to be doing with your time,
Yeah, of course.
And I was always creative, and I was always into, I suppose, music in a ways, or that creative side of things, or like films. It was always a big part of my life, but I never saw it as a career path. And I taught myself with a YouTube channel for the first couple of months, and just to get my head around on how to cut and edit, produce, research, and bring all of that together. And then he came into my mind, and I pursued it that way. And then I was thinking, for the first couple of months, I don't want that to get out, so I kept everything private.
Yeah.
And then I did all the playlist sections as well. And it's just an incredible story, His story is a fairy tale story, in the sense where he came from, in regards, that it looked like he'd missed the ship, and then when he did get over, the whole Clough story, and then when he gets to United, there's another Cork man waiting for him, a Dennis Irwin, a Toker man, and he's living the dream with him for 10 years, a Mayfield man, a Toker man, and that's coming together, and then they achieve what they achieved, one of the greatest United teams ever. And you've the Celtic thing after, then you've the management thing after, and then you've the Sky Sports. He's become very big with that, and
really changed him, in my opinion, in a good way.
Yeah, you're seeing the best of him come out, in regards his sense of humour, and I like, that's a side that everybody has, in regards that you want to protect your own privacy, and I think Roy was uncomfortable with that, and understandably so. I'd be very uncomfortable myself, being exposed to that. So I don't think people really saw the real Roy Keane till we're watching him on Sky Sports now, and you're seeing the humour. You're seeing.
There's no bad jokes. First of all, Roy, I think, look, he's a very smart man, and he doesn't try to be smart. That's the thing, right? Naturally, it just comes to him. That could be from as a kid growing up in the north side of Cork City, the witty sense of humour back then, to where he is now. But as you say, like, social media, first of all, is a very dangerous place, right? Very dangerous. We see a lot of players, they interact on Twitter, and they get into the debates, right? I think with Roy, very rare you see anyone talk absolute nonsense about him. I think he's respected by all fans, all clubs, and everyone in general. And that's one thing you rarely ever see. Now, I don't look deep into it, but that's one thing I'm confident in saying, right? But on Sky Sports, he's doing stuff with Mecca Richards. Obviously, he's got that relationship with Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher. He's absolute box office, right? And I have to say, they're obviously paying him very well, which is deservedly so. He's got a career in football, since a young lad, and obviously this has come about now. He said in previous years, look, he'd love to go back into management. I think he's had offers in the last 2-3 years that haven't worked out for him. He's probably been offered a job, so he hasn't taken them in the end. But it's just an absolute breeze to see him do the stuff, and I want to know what you think of that, first of all.
Yeah, like you mentioned, like the street cred, Jerry, and I tell you a very interesting story that mightn't be well known, and it blew me away when I was looking back at him in regards to Forest years.
Yeah.
And he did all the negotiating himself.
Yeah.
Right? Which is amazing, like a 19, 20-year-old kid, and particularly when he was at his last year, which would have been 93, before he left for United. He's going up against Brian Clough, who was at the game 25 years.
Yeah.
And I saw him in this interview, and it summed up his brain, his mentality, and I'm blown away that he was doing his own negotiation. When he went to United, he got advice from Niall Quinn, I think, and he brought in, I can't think of the first, I think he passed away recently, the solicitor, Michael Kennedy.
Yeah.
But all the Forest negotiating, I'm 99% certain of that, including the last one. And he came up with this comment. He said, I'll go in high, they'll go in low, and we'll meet in the middle. So he had that figured out at 20, right? And that's going in, from what I can remember with the research that I did, I think he pulled out a decent contract his last year, 300 grand a year.
Which is big money as well.
Big money back then.
Yeah.
And negotiated it himself.
Yeah.
But then he got the sell-on clauses in as well. So if somebody came in and they got relegated, he was going.
Yeah.
So he had a wherewithal as a 20-year-old, not worried about that, not fearful of that. And I remember another story in Co when he signed with there, when Alfie Hale signed him, and the club didn't want to sign him because he was a young fella, he was 17, and Alfie Hale said, you need to sign him. And Alfie said, look, I can give you 20, so I want 40. So he knew the game, at a young age. He wasn't afraid to speak his mind, never. Streetwise. And then that brings into the Sky thing, Jerry, like where does the popularity with that come from?
Yeah.
And he's the type of character, and a lot of Cork people are like this, right? And you get entertainment from this. Like, you ask him a question, you get an answer. You might like the answer,
yeah,
right? You might agree with the answer, but you got his answer.
Yeah.
So he goes to the chase. So, like, if a guy's he keeps the game simple.
Yeah.
In regards, he's not running back. He can't defend. He can't pass. And when people that say aren't necessarily involved deeply in the game and don't understand the tactics, they do understand when somebody's not running back or somebody's not defending or somebody can't head a ball, and that's gold dust in TV, isn't it?
It is. It's box office, and I think it's a blessing that we see Roy on our screens every weekend, which is something that I don't want to go away. Like some of the stories we've heard with Roy over the years, look, you hear stories that, like, obviously, look, he was streetwise. He wasn't afraid to argue. He'd have his arguments. Stories with the bus up with Schmeichel in the hallway, and Scholes and Bobby Charlton look out, and Schmeichel as a black guy the next day. Always respected Schmeichel, and you know what I mean. It's one of them things. You know what I mean. He doesn't dwell on things for too long, right? Can you see him go back into management? Like, you know so much about him in the sense of, look, you know what I mean? You've seen his pattern.
I don't think he cares, Jerry, at this stage.
Yeah.
Like, that's the feeling I kind of get. And when you get to whatever our age, I'm the same age as him. He was August, I'm May, a couple of months between us. You're 52. You start picking the quality of life decisions,
Yeah.
because the clock's ticking, and you don't, fingers crossed, you don't have as much time as you would when you're 20s kind of mentality.
Yeah.
So he tried Ipswich, he tried Sunderland, and I think in my opinion, the hardest part for Roy is the emotional side of reacting to lack of effort, lack of professionalism, lack of camaraderie among the team.
Yeah.
Are guys just not contributing either by being professional with their training habits, and he reacts to that.
Yeah.
And the game hasn't changed. The game's the same as 11 against 11 and all of that, okay? But I think it's changed in the sense that the players copped on to something maybe about 10 years ago, the power that they have in the ability to get managers out the door.
Yeah.
And the fact then that the loyalty from a lot, particularly, say, as an example, Chelsea, who just get rid of managers on a whim, between 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12, you don't get a real decent, we're going to leave you alone for 4 years, off you go. There's pressure, and we understand all of that. The game's changed financially.
Yeah.
So those pressures, like, he doesn't need the challenge of the money, right? That's just not the reason he'd be even entertaining going back into it. I think, and which he gets an unfair cop in this, people forget what he did in the Sunderland the first 7 or 8 months, right? And where they were, okay? 6 games in, Niall Quinn, there was a story with Keane, my dad, he was watching one of the games when Quinn was on the sideline, and the Cork black humour, like, they thought Quinn was going to have a banger, you better give him a dig out there, and they approached him, and whatever Quinn's reasons for approaching it, my own opinion on that's trying to mend the bridges over Saipan and all of that, but anyway, he made the approach, football, but Keane brought them from, it's either second or third from the bottom, right up to the top, won it out, okay? So you don't do that unless you've something about yourself, right?
Yeah.
And the players responded to him and reacted to him. Okay, the next year then they're up the Premiership, he bought some players, that works, so it doesn't work for you. I think he looks back at that and going, like, people don't remember what I did with Sunderland. He's learned from what he got wrong in Sunderland and Ipswich.
Yeah.
He's probably, maybe with the Sky experience, calm down and enjoy the life in that sense.
I think so, yeah.
And can he emotionally connect a little bit bit in a calmer, funnier type of. I think that's the challenge.
Yeah.
I have my doubts because Roy's Roy in regards to the emotion and when he sees something, but has he learned from his experience? Absolutely, certainly. So I think that's what's trying to draw him back in, Jerry. But will he?
Yeah. Well, you never know. Will the Saudis make an offer? Will he go out with Gerrard and look, offer him so much money? We know he can manage. We know as a player he was one of the best of all time. What's your thoughts on if he joined Blackburn Rovers? We know Dalglish almost had him. Blackburn were a big club at the time.
Yeah.
Obviously won the league 2 years after that. I think 95 they won.
They did, yeah. They won, yeah.
What would have happened if Roy went to Blackburn?
He wouldn't have won as many medals.
Yeah.
That first
It's
and
mad,
foremost.
isn't it? It's crazy, like, you know.
And he was there, Jerry. I mean, like the story, the reality was he had. Okay, he physically hadn't signed the form, but if the form was there on the Friday,
It was signed.
absolutely, it was signed, but the office was closed. So he did promise, and in fairness to him, he was feeling very bad and guilty about that, about not going back on the Monday. But he didn't know, to be fair to Roy now, right? And I don't know, do you know this part of the story, right? He went home to Cork after that. Of course, you're going to go back to your family, your friends, you're going to celebrate. Wait, you know, I think it was in around 450,000 he was getting. So that was a jump from 300 or 350 from Forest up to that. So that's worth celebrating. You're going to your friends, and not just the money. You're going to Blackburn. Obviously, felt bad about Forest going down, but he put his heart and soul into it. And Clough will be the first to say that in all different positions that year. So he went to. He did say he was going to sign for Blackburn, but he didn't know on a Sunday morning that Alex Ferguson was going to ring the family home.
Yeah.
And Dennis Irwin set that up, right? Because this is pre-mobile, as you know, right? So Alex Ferguson didn't have the number. So I don't know what Dennis Irwin did, but Dennis Irwin did a lot of detective work and got Roy Keane's home phone number back in that day. Ferguson rang him. Somebody else answered the phone. Roy went to the phone. More than likely, a little hungover after sidetracks or wherever he was that night. You don't remember sidetracks? No,
I was in there.
All right, okay.
I'd say I was in there. And I'll mention that I was in there before it closed down, So 2003, 2004,
I know it might have been Cubans or it could have been these other places are all gone.
Cubans with spiders, wasn't it? I was in sidetracks, definitely. I remember.
Spiders before your time now. What is
I'm only 35. But I've been to Cubans, but I was blessed to be in sidetracks as a 17-year-old.
Right.
Because there was a father.
I don't know about blessed now, but anyway.
I learned a lot in sidetracks. We will say that.
Fair enough. So wherever he was, that time, and I'm sure he was somewhere in the city, he answered the phone, and or whoever answered the phone eventually realised it wasn't a wind-up, but it was Alex Ferguson, so he took the call, and all Ferguson said to him was, look, don't sign anything, come over, game of snooker with Brian Kidd and all that, and then he turned him. No, fair play to Ferguson, right? And that's, bad luck on Dalglish, obviously, with that. And he did change his mind, but he's entitled to change his mind. His Man United, you know. It wasn't Tranmere, no offence to Tranmere or anything but, you know, who's going to say no to Man United?
Yeah.
And he did go, and he had to then deal with the wrath of Dalglish, and we all know the stories with that.
Dalglish still looking for him, I'd say,
That's what he said. He went on a holiday, and Keane said, I don't know where he was, in the Napa or where something like that, looking over his shoulder as Dalglish coming in the door. But I don't understand it from Dalglish's perspective, but I totally get it from Keane's woman. He doesn't regret that for one single second. And Blackburn then, as you know, went back down. They did win the league in '95. United were beaten in the FA Cup that year as well to Everton, so they didn't win anything. His first year he won the double, didn't win anything the next year, and then he went on the career that he went on, you know.
Thank God.
Absolutely. So right decision.
Yeah. In the end, a bit of luck along the way, even though he worked hard, I suppose. The luck with Dennis Irwin maybe getting the number and look the way things move forward for him. We know Cork were a big club in the 80s, okay? And obviously Cork City, obviously founded in 1982. No, 84, sorry.
84, yeah.
And obviously, look, they like we know there was Cork Celtic. There was so many, you know. What brought out that Cove move, do you reckon? Obviously, look, they were a big club. Obviously, they could, you know what I mean. It's a distance from Mayfield to Cove, but obviously, look, the journey's nice. You can get a train, such and such. Like that's obviously a big part. Obviously, Rockmount were a big club in Cork. Cove, obviously, a big club in Cork. But Jesus, it all worked out well for him. Like.
Yeah, you didn't get out all the videos yet. You will, right? Because there's another story with that, with the signing back in. He finished with Rockmount in the 88-89 season, so he'd have been going into the, am I right with that, 89-90, with the League of Ireland. So the carrot with Keane back in 89-90 was the false scores.
Yeah.
Okay? So Roy Keane signed with Cork City up in the shadow, signed the form. Okay, the signature's down there. We're pretty certain of that. And that weekend, Saturday, I don't know who he was talking to, so I can't stand over that. If I ever get talking to Roy, I'll find out. I have my suspicions, and I think it might have been Lendo. I don't know, right? Or somebody from Cork. But Eddie, what was his name? The youth manager. I should remember his name now.
Eddie Nolan, is it?
Not Eddie Nolan. There was two brothers down there. Oh, Eddie O'Rourke, right? Eddie O'Rourke got wind that Keane had signed for Cork City, right? But Roy didn't get the guarantee. All right, this actually what it was Len Downey and a lad from Mitchelstown, I can't think of his name, a keeper, John something. Downey told them they got the 2 FAS slots.
Yeah.
So Roy's mind was all tuned in. I want to go training full time, and that's what FAS offered, right?
Yeah.
Buying the computer courses and all that, that was an afterthought, right?
Yeah.
But it was like to train with the best young players up in Dublin 5 days a week. I want to get on that. Yeah. City promised him that. It didn't materialise. He realised at the weekend it wasn't materialised because Downey said to John Donegan was the keeper. So Len Downey, John Donegan got the 2 Cork City slots, not 3. So he's going, okay, I wanted to go to FAS. No, I'm not going to FAS. Eddie O'Rourke got wind of it. Rang Keane. I can offer you the FAS. Are you sure? I can. Okay, I'll sign for you. So he went down, he signed for Cork. So he signed for 2 teams. That ended up in the courts, right? Because he shouldn't have, and he knows that. But Cork paid the fine. Signed with Cork, played the year with Cork. Another sliding doors, but the one thing you will always see with Roy Keane, Jerry, he'll always tell you how lucky he was and how we had the right people in the right place at the right time.
The right time,
And the amount of players that he knows, I know, you know, that, and in all different sports, right, where you don't get the right people at the right time in the right place. You get the wrong people at the wrong time, the wrong place, and that has a huge bearing.
Ruins your career. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So he always admits that with humbleness and humility.
Yeah.
You know. So he's an incredible character in that regard, and then we know all the stuff that he likes to keep quiet, and rightly so in regards to generosity with charity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it the whole thing as a story is an incredibly interesting thing. And the fact then, Jerry, like you and me, he's a Cork man.
Yeah.
We're extremely proud of that, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm happy that as a Cork man did it on this guy, you know.
Of course.
And we've taken the handle and control and that. And I'm just hoping, you know, you were great. Channel yourself here. I've watched lots of the podcast videos you've done, so I hope people just enjoy it and get the kick out of it and find out things maybe they didn't know about him, you know.
Well, I'm telling you guys, you have to check out the YouTube channel. It's Keaneo. You need to subscribe first of all. All the way back from day one up to I suppose you could say now. There's so much there. The stories are incredible. I could listen to you all day, and that's the truth. Now, I want to say one thing, Paddy. I think you need to somehow get this into a book, right? I think there's definitely something that will sell lots and lots and lots and lots of copies.
Yeah, well, there's one thing I can tell you, Jerry. I got a full-time gig as well, or a part-time gig. I'm a tour manager. I get a plug in with that Underground Donut Tour. If you want to go out on that, just look us up. We'll take care of you if you come out, like, because I do a history Twitter handle as well. So I love my history and I love my sport and all of that. So I'm putting time into that. But I have 2 things in the back burner on the Keane thing, and I had started one till I started this new gig, and it's basically quotes that were said about him. Well, I shouldn't say too much in case somebody wants to. But I get it, run with your point.
Yeah.
I have things in the pipeline because you're absolutely on the money in regards the amount of material I have.
Yeah.
There's lots of things I can do with it, and it's just getting the
have
time.
the clippings. You know the way your brother sends stuff over. Do you keep any of that kind of stuff? Old Echo?
No, I didn't. But what you have now, Jerry, in the modern day, there's lots of negative things about the technology. But you have this resource for yourselves or for anybody else that's listening. You have the Irish Newspaper Archives. It costs you 70 or 80 euros for a year.
Yeah.
And that'll bring you back to the 1840s with the Cork Examiner and the Echo.
I remember it in the library actually years and years ago. People were looking for articles.
There you
find
go.
them.
But you can subscribe online yourself and have it on an app on the phone. I'm regularly on it because I was doing the script for the new job. Yeah. And that's where I found a lot of the material. Then I found a lot of it on YouTube as well. So that's there as a resource, the newspaper archive. So yeah, I get where you're coming from. You know, there is something.
It's great to have it on YouTube and we can watch it. Like I prefer to watch things and read. I'm not going to lie, but I like to read as well. And I think with what you have, you know what I mean, and there's no one else doing it, I think it needs to be printed as well. and I hope that's something that can happen in the near future for you.
Sure, hopefully,
you
Jerry.
put in serious work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and like I'm thinking too as well, because it's a very hard thing to keep building up the subscribers and get. I've nearly 400 on. I'm over the moon with that. Just a year at it, and it's just I try to branch off with it, and I pull back from something because. There are the 400 people that are there liking and enjoying it, and
they'll all watch it.
They'll all watch it, but I'm seriously entertaining doing some interviews as well, like yourselves.
Yeah,
in
I
regards,
think you need to. Yeah,
bring on Noel Spillane maybe, or Davy Hannigan, and Cork lads that watch them, and go that route and see just to spice it up and a little bit of.
You're onto something, and I will say one thing, like in regards to to the work you do it on your own, and people don't realize. You look at all these people that have millions of followers, right? They have a team of 1,000, 100, right? When you do things on your own, it's a lot harder, right? You're doing your own research, bringing your own cameras, audio work, and it takes its toll. But as I said, it's something that I think when people see it and they know about it, they're going to subscribe straight away. They will. I'm telling you, mark my words. If once the word gets out there, it's going to go from 400 to 800 to 2, 4, 6, 8,000. So we'll make sure that we have the link on the YouTube channel as well. But
thanks very much, Jerry. Yeah.
I think you can talk about even Mark Carroll. That's another story for another day. But I think we need to talk about Mark Carroll and talk about other stories. When it comes to local Cork sports, you're definitely a pro Cork man.
There's no two things about that, and sometimes we get a bad rap with that. I don't like going over the top with that, in the sense that our nearest neighbours in Kerry use that against us, because it kind of pushes close to the line that we can come across a little arrogant and cocky. They don't like that. And there's one little story, I tell you, a gas story with that, which illustrated that very much for me, was when we won the All-Ireland back in 2010, and Paul Galvin was down in Lixnaw. He was watching the game with his father, and he walked down to the village, and three of his buddies were outside, out in the street smoking while the match was still on, and looked like Cork were coming back at us, but Cork looked like they were going to see it out. And he said, "Why aren't you in watching it?" "Oh, we couldn't watch them fuckers win that." So I am a pro Cork man, but I don't go over the top with it either. Do you understand what I mean?
Completely understand.
That's it. I mean, and I'm more than happy to be doing this about Roy Keane. And then, as I said to you earlier, the Dennis Irwin story, and I was saying that to Barbara O'Connell in an interview I did with The Echo.
Yeah.
It's a great immigrant story, Jerry. There's lots and lots, thousands, tens of thousands, millions of people, I suppose, over the last 150 years have gone across the oceans and the seas to all these different countries. There's not all great stories.
No, a lot of them stay there and they walk, you know what I mean? It doesn't work out, but they're still there,
Exactly, there's that. But this is one of those stories, the Cork stories.
Yeah.
Roy Keane leading the troop, and, like Dennis Irwin then.
I'm so underrated, Irwin. Now we know how good he was, and United fans know how good he was, but the man is rarely spoken about sometimes. The man did it all. I think Ferguson, he was the best pound for pound boy he ever had or something,
He was, and that was whatever 1990 semi-final against Oldham. Yeah. But he played 80 odd times with I think it was Eddie Gray brought him over in 86, so he'd gone over. He's older than Roy, as you know.
Yeah.
So and the quiet man, Roy, questions that sometimes, not as quiet as people make out,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
What an incredible player, 2-footed, left and right.
Yeah.
Little different than Roy in this sense, and then going back to the versatility, and that's something that's always overlooked with Keane, and I repeat myself in that.
Yes.
And that shows you the type of player that he was. Like, you couldn't put Dennis Irwin into centre midfield, but you could put Roy Keane right back.
Yeah, I know what
you
mean.
couldn't put Dennis up to number 10, but you could put Roy in. You couldn't put Dennis in the wing, but you could put Roy in.
He's the package.
He had the ability, he had the confidence, the touch, the movement to play in different positions and contribute, not just going back, filling a hole, go back there and able to defend, go forward at the right time, and that's something that just shows you the total class in the guy that as a player, because you have to be a complete total footballer to be able to play in different positions, and that's the one I'll always throw back with Paul Scholes. Could see Paul Scholes right back. Gerrard did it, maybe I think right back one or two times, but could you see Gerrard on the wing? Could you see him left back? And did Stephen Gerrard win as many medals as Roy Keane? So I'll knock them all back. Same with Lampard.
It's a good debate, though. It's a good debate. Before I go, I'm going to give you a little fact file on my behalf, right? So this is our little claim to fame. So in the 90s, my dad's uncle, so my nan's brother, Tommy Mullins, right? He owned a house, and one day got a knock in the house. So
your granddad?
It would be my dad's uncle. So
Right, okay, your granduncle.
My nan's brother, right? So knock at the door. Roy Keane, right? At the time, I suppose the uncle, yeah, you know what I mean. I think he, I remember hearing a story. He used to own the Blarney Tavern Bar, and he was a painter, very likeable guy from Fenry originally in Mullins. But in a nutshell, Roy Keane bought the house from him, and that's where his mother and father lived. Right up to, I suppose, his mother's still there right now.
Old Boys Cross. Yeah,
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
So, obviously that, I always remember the picture on the paper of the house that had the balcony, beautiful house. That would have been my dad's uncle, Tommy Mullins. And I remember when we heard the story, obviously everyone was excited. I remember being down with my nans in Common Avenue Sunday as well, and it was on the paper, Roy Keane buys a house for his mum and dad, whatever, Mossy and his mum, and Jesus Christ, Roy Keane bought a house, and I remember saying to Tommy, like we'd be in Annie's Bar across the road from Sunday as well, Tommy, can we meet Roy Keane? And no, sure, we only met him the once or twice and this and that. But that's how big he was now, and that would have been, I suppose, 98, 99 maybe. But that was my claim to fame.
It would have been, very
mad, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but it was just a knock at the door, Roy Keane.
Unbelievable story,
Yeah.
and like that just shows the personality, the nature of the guy too.
Yeah.
That he's never lost sight for 1 second ever where he came from, his roots, and what's important. And when he got money, he wasn't thinking about the Ferrari or the Lamborghini. He was thinking about his mum and dad.
His family.
And he took care of them. And that side of things that are forgotten about him sometimes, and we mentioned it already.
Yeah.
All the stuff he's done, that Miles Gaffney lad, the singer, he was a Liverpool fan and all that. There's thousands and thousands. We won't talk about too much about that because he doesn't like people talking about it, But some of them get out in the public, and I've read about it myself, and you just can't but have total admiration for that side of it.
Unbelievable. And you mentioned Cork through and through. I won't lie, Paddy. In the last 3-4 years, I've seen Roy walk around the city at least 6 times. I've seen him down in Dunlees in Blackpool, the old coffee pot, just walking out, driving through Blackpool. I'm driving the car, that's Roy Keane. I've seen him walking on Oliver Plunkett Street. I've met him numerous times, never interviewed him, but an absolute gent. Anytime I've approached him, I've always been alert not to ask him for a selfie. I've got a selfie with him, but he's always been an absolute gent. Even with my youngest son Leon, we've got numerous pictures of Roy. He's always had time for us. Obviously, you know what I mean, he's his own man. Obviously approach him at the right time, but an absolute gem. Does a lot as well for Cork penny dinners, and look, we could talk millions. There's so much he does, but what a man, Yeah. And I'm glad someone's dug deep, done all the research, and you're the Roy Keane historian, and we need a Roy Keane day in Cork.
A Roy Keane museum, Jerry.
I think, but especially down in Visitors Park, there's potential to get something rolling here, and the facts you have, you know what I mean, the stories you have.
If it goes off in another direction, I'd love to, Jerry. Yeah,
thousands would pay to hear it, because some of the stories you're hearing, like even with the Cove and the Foss, I remember hearing about. I recall the fort, but I didn't know in depth, and you gave me that in depth answer there. So we need to hear more. You know what I mean? So guys, make sure you subscribe to Paddy's YouTube channel, Keaneo. We'll have the links on the page. There's videos there. I'm going to get through the rest of them. I've got kids, but look, when the kids go to bed, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get through them all. Look, it might take me a while, but I'm looking forward to it. The man's an absolute icon here in Cork, and look, we'll get him on for more stories in due course, especially in regards to Mark Carroll. I think we could have a story or two there. But make sure you check out the channel from myself, Jerry Coughlan, and Paddy, SportsMatters TV guys, and this is an absolute gem, a Roy Keane special. Check it out. Be sure to check out and support all our media partners. Sports Matters, bringing the sports home.